in the sport of boxing. Is the pound for pound best fighter in the sport of boxing right now. It's good to see him in his position, in the position that he's in. I think he has a beautiful family.
He can't beat Canelo. Nah, no way. I mean, I don't see him beating Canelo. He didn't even look that strong against Madrimov, to be honest. And Madrimov's not even a big.
Yeah, different style though. Madrimov has a jerky
different style, yeah, but
in and out, count him, punching, hard to time.
The thing with Canelo is he's mastered his style, and he ain't gonna change it up. But he's mastered it. Like he understands what's going on in the ring at all times. I just don't see Terence beating him. I don't.
But Jesus Lord, I mean, give this man, I mean, the title of being the greatest ever.
You know, Rollies, I'm fighting Rollies, you know. I've already said all the shit I want to say to Haney.
Do you regret anything?
Ain't nothing changed, right? I still was suspended for a year.
With months still to go before the highly anticipated Canelo versus Crawford showdown, the boxing world is already buzzing with predictions and analysis. Ever since the fight was announced, Terence Crawford has received widespread praise, with many in the boxing community believing he has what it takes to pull off a historic victory. Among his supporters is legendary promoter Bob Arum, who has been vocal in his confidence in Crawford's ability. Arum said he immediately believed Crawford would win and even reassured him, calling it a great fight for him. He dismissed any concerns about weight being an issue for Crawford, insisting that Alvarez wouldn't be able to use his size to gain an advantage.
Once it was announced, I felt that Crawford would win. As a matter of fact, Terence came over to me after a fight that we did, I think with Keyshawn Davis, and I told him, I said, it's a great fight for you. You're going to win that fight. Of being ambidextrous and switching from a southpaw to orthodox as the fight goes on, and that's going to befuddle Canelo. Canelo, like most fighters, have not dealt with that kind of opponent. I think that's what made it such an easy fight with who's-you-call-it.
Elaborating on what makes Crawford such a unique talent, Bob Arum compared him to other elite fighters and highlighted his exceptional adaptability. According to Arum, Crawford's ability to switch styles fluidly makes him a nightmare for opponents, especially since most fighters aren't prepared to face someone so versatile. Arum went as far as to say that Crawford's skill set is so extraordinary he would have posed a serious challenge even to a prime Floyd Mayweather Jr. He made it clear that his praise was based solely on Crawford's boxing ability, not influenced by any outside factors.
I just haven't seen, and the ability that he has to switch, you know, fighters aren't used to that. They don't train for that. I just think Crawford is a very, very unique talent.
Trainer Mickey Bay also weighed in on the discussion, offering his thoughts on Crawford's weight strategy. According to Bay, Crawford should avoid putting on too much weight and instead aim to fight at around 165 to 168 pounds. He cautioned that excessive rehydration could backfire, especially since Crawford is already moving up in weight. In Bay's view, staying closer to his natural weight would help Crawford maintain the speed and agility that are key to his success.
In my opinion, I would come in this is my opinion, I would come in at 65 and come in at the same weight for the fight. 65, 68. That's what I'm saying. He shouldn't need to rehydrate a lot. He should just stay where he at.
What?
Why would he need to rehydrate? He already moving up.
But he be walking, doesn't he walk around at like 170 something anyway?
Shape though. I'm talking about fight, like in top fighting shape. Yeah, he could weigh 170 something out of shape. Not out of shape, but not watching what he eat. I'm saying I think Crawford should be under 170 in the ring.
Bay expanded on his thoughts by emphasizing that Crawford's final weight should be determined by how he feels during sparring. He suggested that staying in the 168 to 171 pound range would allow Crawford to avoid losing speed or becoming sluggish in the ring. Bay compared Crawford's situation to Floyd Mayweather's approach when fighting at 154 pounds, noting that while Crawford is naturally capable of making lower weights, there's no need to push his body unnecessarily. Ultimately, they predicted that Crawford would win the fight by decision, stressing that staying within his optimal weight range would be crucial to his success.
170, if whatever he feel good at sparring multiple times, that's what I come in at. So if it's 168, 171, I would stay within that range, but I wouldn't, that's the only factor, is him not being too slow. But if I was Crawford, my opinion, if I can just think off the top of my head, I would weigh in at 165 and fight at 168 to 170. When he was fighting 54.
But come in at 168 though, right? Come in at 168.
No,
like, you want a little lower, you saying?
Yeah, 65. And fight anywhere from the same weight. He probably be 65 to 70 when he fight.
Try to get in there at 170.
It ain't really a try, just naturally. Like
it naturally, yeah.
Ain't nothing he gonna have to really watch. Like
water is gonna do it.
Tim Bradley also shared his perspective, making it clear that he gives Crawford a serious shot at winning. In Bradley's view, Crawford is the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world and has the skill set needed to outbox Canelo. While he acknowledged that Alexander Usyk currently holds the top spot on many pound-for-pound lists due to his accomplishments in the heavyweight division, Bradley maintained that Crawford is the most technically skilled fighter in the sport. He described Canelo as a powerful but somewhat predictable opponent and believes Crawford will be able to expose those limitations once they meet in the ring.
Terence is just, that's his mentality. It's tough. A little bit of me moving forward. That's what scares me about the Canelo fight, to be honest with you. Because
he ain't gonna back down. He ain't gonna back down.
No,
no,
not.
He's
not gonna back. And he's tough. And that's what scares me about that fight, because you don't need to be training with that bull. Like, I know you're strong, but that dude is naturally strong, and he's been at his weight class for a very long time. So he's acclimated. You're not. You don't need to be trading with this guy at all, regardless.
Meanwhile, Michaela Meyer echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing that Crawford's movement and unpredictability would be major factors in the fight. She believes Crawford will avoid engaging in direct exchanges with Canelo and instead rely on his ability to switch stances and disrupt Canelo's rhythm.
Terence knows he's not going to sit in there and bang with Canelo. I don't think that's a good idea for anyone to do. And so he's going to box. He's going to box. He's going to use his unorthodox style from, switching back and forth, keeping Canelo, keep him questioning what he's going to do. And Canelo has to sit. He wants to sit on his shots, right?
In Meyer's view, Canelo is at his best when he's able to plant his feet and unleash powerful shots, and she believes Crawford's strategy will focus on preventing that. While she expects the fight to remain competitive through 10 rounds, she also acknowledged that Canelo's power and size advantage make him a constant threat at any moment.
And Terence is just going to not let him do that. He's going to try to not let him do that over the course of 10 rounds. We'll see. One shot from Canelo could totally change the fight. And that's where Terence has got to be careful. But if it goes to the scorecards, I believe I would have Terence up. I think that Canelo has a chance of knocking him out, obviously, with the weight difference and the way he puts his body behind his shots. But I'm gonna pull for Crawford to come through.
Amir Khan, who has shared the ring with both fighters, also offered his perspective on the matchup. Drawing from personal experience, Khan expressed confidence in Crawford's chances. "I think Crawford has his number," he said in an interview. "He's fundamentally a great fighter, but his body structure is very heavy, and he hits hard," Khan added. However, he acknowledged boxing's unpredictability, noting that anything can happen once the fighters step into the ring. Floyd Mayweather, the man who handed Canelo his first career loss in 2013, has also praised Crawford's abilities. According to Ring magazine, Mayweather said, "I think Terence Crawford, right now in the sport of boxing, is the pound-for-pound best fighter." In another interview, Mayweather reinforced his admiration for Crawford, stating that his accomplishments speak for themselves. While he acknowledged Canelo's greatness, he made it clear that Crawford's rise to the top has solidified his position as the best fighter in boxing today.
Crawford, right now in the sport of boxing, is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport of boxing right now. it's good to see him in his position, in the position that he's in. I think he has a beautiful family.
HLY Malaji also shared his perspective, drawing a comparison between Crawford's mentality and that of Floyd Mayweather. He described Crawford as an aggressive and determined fighter who thrives on challenges. While he acknowledged that Crawford will be at a size disadvantage, Malaji expressed confidence in Crawford's ability to rise to the occasion. He also noted that a win for Canelo could conveniently allow him to continue avoiding David Benavidez, a long-avoided mandatory challenger in the super middleweight division.
Is a guy who reminds me of Floyd, that he stays hungry, motivated, and wants to still be the best, has that mean streak in the ring. Not to say that Canelo doesn't have a mean streak, but I feel like once you start punching Canelo a few times in the face, that mean streak ain't so mean anymore. You know what I mean? He punks out a little bit. So while Crawford, I feel like, wants to go for the gusto. That doesn't mean to me that Crawford wins because he's small, but I'm just saying I believe more now that Crawford can win than I did originally when this was first being talked about. And I would love to see Crawford win because I feel like if Canelo gets this payday, which is going to be a big payday, and then also gets the win out of it, it's just too much of a reward for outright ducking Benavidez and being allowed to duck his mandatory contender while holding all the belts hostages at 168 pounds for so long and not letting that weight class run its course.
Dmitry Bivol, who previously defeated Canelo at light heavyweight, also weighed in on the upcoming fight. Initially, Bivol had doubts about Crawford's ability to compete in higher weight classes. However, after seeing him in person during a visit to Dubai, he changed his mind. Bivol noted that Crawford appeared bigger than expected and had the technical skills needed to challenge larger opponents effectively.
Is he able to win this fight? But there is a lot of but, and even not but, there is a lot of things, small things, which we don't know how he will deal with this. He needs to get used to the power and pressure of 168 because it's big difference, to be honest. Maybe he will get used to it and how he will be.
Building on his earlier observations, Bivol emphasized that fighting at 168 pounds brings additional challenges. He explained that adapting to the power and pressure of bigger opponents requires more than just skill, it demands physical adjustments as well. Facing someone as experienced as Canelo makes the task even more difficult. However, Bivol remains confident that Crawford's versatility will allow him to overcome those obstacles. He believes this fight will be more competitive than many expect, with Crawford's unique style posing serious problems for Canelo.
Fighting, how his training camp will go on, a lot of things. But he's able, he has good skills, he's awkward, he can use two boxing stands. It gives him benefits, of course.
I was at that same event in Dubai just before Christmas, and I saw him too, and I thought exactly the same thing, which is that he is quite big.
Yeah.
Size obviously is important. Jamel Charlo stepped up from super welterweight to super middleweight to box Canelo, and it didn't work at all for him. But Crawford is, he's one of the best fighters.
Similarly, Shakur Stevenson has long believed that Crawford has the potential to challenge Canelo. Speaking to Ring Magazine, Stevenson revealed that even after Crawford's fight with Sean Porter, he predicted that Crawford could give Canelo trouble in the ring.
What did you think of this idea of Bud going up to 68 to fight Canelo?
I ain't gonna lie, I've been putting it out since, I want to say, when he fought Sean Porter. Like back then, if you go watch, it's an interview out there. I had said I think that Terence Crawford would beat Canelo Alvarez right after he fought Sean Porter. So the idea, I've been thinking about it. I've been saying it before Bud even.
This was not a recent conclusion for Stevenson. He had considered it years before Crawford himself showed interest in moving up. Stevenson pointed out that even before Bivol exposed Canelo's weaknesses, he already believed Crawford had the style to secure a victory.
Saying it then, like that was what, a few years ago, it was 160 or 168 at that point, but why did you believe then that was the right fight?
Because I just knew, like, as far as in that weight class, Terence Crawford is like the greatest. So I just feel as though with Canelo's style, and like the style of boxing that he got, I think and this is before Bivol did it, but I thought like Terence Crawford was the only guy who I felt as though could have beat Canelo.
However, while Crawford has earned respect for taking on this challenge, many in the boxing world remain skeptical due to the significant weight difference. Promoter Oscar de la Hoya believes that size matters, emphasizing that a great smaller fighter has never beaten a great bigger fighter. He doesn't think Crawford will be the exception. While acknowledging that Manny Pacquiao's victory over him was an anomaly, de la Hoya pointed out that the fight was different because he was past his prime at the time. He views Canelo's size, power, and dominance at super middleweight as a serious obstacle for Crawford.
I've been in this game for such a long time, and I like to say I'm a historian. There's never been a good little man that beats a good big man. It hasn't happened. I mean, the exception is maybe Pacquiao beating me, but that situation and scenario was like totally different. I was at the end of my career, and I was a shot fighter, and Pacquiao was coming up and he beat me. But a good little man, which would be Crawford, just has never beat a good big man, which would be Canelo. In the history of the sport, it just now if Crawford can...
Despite his doubts, de la Hoya admits that the challenge itself could fuel Crawford's motivation. He acknowledges that if Crawford pulls off the win, it would solidify him as one of the greatest fighters in history. However, he stresses that the physical disparity is undeniable. According to de la Hoya, Canelo will likely weigh around 200 pounds on fight night, making it an uphill battle for Crawford.
Jesus Lord, I mean, give this man, the title of being the greatest ever, you know? And then that's probably the motivation for Crawford. That's probably the motivation for his camp, for his, for his corner, for his trainer, is that, look, if you beat Canelo, you can go down as one of the historical best fighters ever on the planet. That's enough motivation for any fighter. So, but I just don't see it as a fighter. I just don't see it. I mean, Canelo is a big puncher. He walks on quicksand, and that's one thing that Crawford can use against him. But the pressure of the heavier guy. Canelo will be 200 pounds up in that ring, So it's a tough fight, but look, I give all the credit to Crawford. If he pulls that one off, Jesus, he'll be the messiah of boxing.
Strength coach Rob Astor shares similar concerns, particularly regarding Crawford's ability to handle the physical demands of moving up to 168 pounds. He points out that Crawford is skipping the middleweight division entirely, making the transition even more difficult. Even if Crawford naturally walks around at 180 pounds, Astor believes that performing at an elite level in a heavier division is a completely different challenge.
From 140, 147, 154, he's going to skip 60 and go straight to 68. So let's just say Crawford walks around 180. Okay, walks around 180, he's going to come down those 12 pounds, make it 68. He ate his way up to 180. Understand that. He didn't work out his way up to 180.
Another major concern is whether Crawford can withstand Canelo's power. Astor highlights that Canelo has absorbed shots from Gennady Golovkin, one of the hardest punchers in the sport. He finds it unrealistic to expect Crawford to move up in weight and impose his will on Canelo in the same way he did against smaller opponents. Additionally, Astor raises questions about how much weight Crawford will regain after the weigh-in and whether he will be able to handle the physicality of a true super middleweight like Canelo.
So if you're just going to eat your way up to a heavier weight, assuming because you sparred heavier guys that you can perform at a top level against a guy who's been there numerous times, very comfortable with his weight, and coming down from a heavier weight, that's a whole different animal. We're talking, the last 2 weeks of every camp is always the most critical time, because that's where the most dumbest things can go wrong. It could be weight, it could be sickness, it could be injury, it could be anything. So I understand how they can all work together to create this like this super fighter. But it's super hard to come from 154 all the way to 68 within a specific time frame and perform as if you were at 147, 140, 147, 154. Also gave him some good shots. He took it well. What you think is going to happen at 168? Canelo's been hit by Triple G, one of the hardest punches in boxing. You mean to tell me that Crawford's going to go up there and just clean him out? Nah, that's not happening. So it's a lot harder. I just think that if he goes from 54, skips 60, goes to 68, then steps on a scale, he comes in under. So let's just say he comes in 65. Then he hydrates to what? What's he going to hydrate to? 175? 160? 178? You walk around in there.
David Benavidez also weighed in, sharing his thoughts during an interview with Jake Paul. While he respects Crawford's skill and high boxing IQ, he considers the weight difference a serious disadvantage. Benavidez admits that he wouldn't be shocked if Crawford won, but he also wouldn't be surprised if he lost. In his view, Crawford didn't look particularly strong at 154 pounds, and now he's taking an even bigger leap in weight. Given the circumstances, Benavidez sees this as one of the riskiest fights of Crawford's career.